I'd like to invite MP Jean Yip to come up and say a few words. Thank you, Jean.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jean Yip. I'm the Member of Parliament for Scarborough Agincourt, and I'm joined by Judy Young, who's representing MP Sean Chen of Scarborough North of this very riding. Thank you, Justin. It's always a pleasure to see you, and also to all the very familiar faces that I see here, like Andy Shee from my riding, who represents CPAC, and Lai Kung Hum right over there, and the board members of CCGT, as well as Mohammed Hashim, I don't know where he is, there he is, of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. You know, it's funny, I always thought that he worked in Ottawa, but he's actually based in Mississauga for the important work that he does. And of course, Teresa, who flies in all the way out west, right, from Calgary to Ottawa. So I want to thank Teresa of the ACCT Foundation, and Alan and Angela of the CCCGT for inviting me to the celebration of Asian Heritage Month. The federal government and Heritage Canada was pleased to provide funding for this powerful and moving exhibit. I was actually really fortunate to see this exhibition in Ottawa at the Senate. And it was part of the National Remembrance Ceremony commemorating the 100th anniversary of the Act. And I'm glad that the exhibit has made it here in Toronto and that it will continue to travel to the East Coast. That's a big deal. I think that it's important for Canadians from coast to coast to coast to understand the history of Chinese Canadians, because our history is is Canadian history. This year's Federal Asian History Month theme is Preserving the Past, Embracing the Future, Amplifying Asian Canadian Legacy, which ties in well with the theme for tonight's event, Eating Bitterness, a Journey from Exclusion to Inclusion. The fact that the Chinese Exclusion Act remained in force for 24 years and that fewer than 50, I believe, Justin, you said 55, 44? Okay. Chinese immigrants were allowed to come to Canada during that period is indeed a bitter pill to swallow. So many families were kept apart, and Teresa, that 33 years, I don't know how your mother managed, and so many children too. So this exhibit truly puts a human face on the stories that we've all heard from the impact of the Exclusion Act. The Chinese-Canadian experience hasn't always been easy. In fact, we still have the rough patches like SARS, COVID, and foreign interference. But while we remember the past, we continue moving forward with hope and optimism. Since the first group of Chinese immigrants came to Canada in 1788, we have contributed to our country over decades and generations. In fact, it was only in 1955 that the age restrictions for Chinese immigrants were lifted. And to my great shock, it wasn't until the late 60s that all remaining restrictions on visible minorities were lifted. So that wasn't too long ago. And we continue, despite all this, to achieve at all levels and across all sectors. On behalf of the federal government, I would like to congratulate ACCT Foundation and CCGT on this beautiful and thought-provoking exhibit. And I'm honored here to be at its Toronto opening. Happy Asian Heritage Month. And it's also wonderful to see the mayor and the Minister Chow here. And Han and Jamal, Councillor Jamal, and of course, sorry, brain freeze. The Deputy Mayor of Richmond Hill. I got your title right. Sorry, brain freeze. It's been a long day, but I'm glad everybody is here. And I'd like to pass this certificate of appreciation to Teresa, Alan, and Angela. That happens.